to speak with you, Claire. How are things? Hi
Hello.
there. Why? Hello. Now
A
that is a
couple of
voice.
technical issues we had there, didn't we?
That's all good. No worries. How does the day find you?
Good.
Honestly, it is. I think it's something that you realize over time, and you become increasingly grateful for when you encounter someone who so vividly and so clearly and fully is just out of being who they are and doing what they do, not any out of any kind of effort or contrivance, like just in who they are, adding to that collective like human light that we all sort of contribute to, and it's just blissful. And you are so,
That's lovely.
yeah, it's
It did actually. When I read your message earlier, it did bring a tear to my eye.
no.
It was such a lovely message.
I mean, I know you just mentioned it in the pre-show, but just for the listeners now that we've opened it up to them and the curtains have gone up, how does the day find you for the listeners?
Very well. It's 9 o'clock here in the UK. So I had to sort out some lights.
Oh yeah.
And kind of think about a setup because it's going to be quite dark.
It is a very nice setup. I'm a big decor. The missus and I are big decor buffins, so you've got some lovely kindred vibes there. I think you've done something that she does all the time, which is you make the outward reflect the inward, and so I'm seeing lots of just peaceful zen. So yeah, and that ripples out to other people too.
Pretty minimal here. And what time is it for you? Where you are?
It's 6 a.m. Yeah.
Okay.
But is my lighting completely harsh and horrible? Just want to say. Everything is all kind of cobbled together, and you can probably see in my background, this is me trying to be crafty and like hide things. It's like Claire, nothing can be hidden from Claire's eyes. See, you can see the boxes in the mirror there. But what I will do is I'll pop you in gallery view so that I can at least see you in the corner of my eye.
Yeah,
so
do the same actually. So
yeah, so for the listeners, it needs to be said that this was initially an ever-based connection, but within milliseconds of connecting on just beyond that first direct message on Reddit, it became so clear that, as I say to my fiance, we are all like human-shaped universes. Like it's just about whether we recognize that or not. And you are not only have recognized yourself as such, you're living as such. You're so multifaceted, like so like ever renewably, ever replenishingly creative and generous and lovely, and that's just like it immediately engendered like, wow, I am immediately grateful for this person and like that they exist. And yeah, so it's pretty
that's really sweet. I think your first message that you sent, it was after I posted on the Reddit thread, wasn't it? And it was such a lovely, all of your messages have been so warm, and I think that really comes across with you as well. Really sweet, really open and generous how you sort of speak to people. It's lovely. It's really nice.
Onwards, forth with that is what I say. I've developed a daggy. There's a word for it. It is. I first encountered it, believe it or not. It's this. I'll look it up. I'll use my skills. Shall I use one of my technical skills? So if you go Godspeed on the Devil's Thunder, this is a Cradle of Filth album, and it is the origin of the name. Don't let me down. Come on. It's a really, you'll love this word, and I know that I'm sure that you're one of those people that really loves like see, this is like, and I'm just going to get my editing on, because honestly, Claire, I'm sure you picked up, like we're just hanging out. We're literally just hanging. Oh, there you go. Okay, so I found the word. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you first.
No. I'm very conscious. I'm feeling very self-conscious actually, because I think the podcast with Aaron, who you both know each other, don't you? The founder. I think that was exposing enough. Just but the camera was turned off when we were recording, so to save the bandwidth. But this was very, very exposed. It's like,
as I like to say,
it's just new stuff, isn't it? It's not like I've never been on Zoom before, obviously. But
really, so you've never used Zoom before?
No, I said it's not like
Oh, okay. You're not
not like I've
like
never been
yeah.
on Zoom
Oh
before.
yeah. Oh,
But
gotcha.
this
Cool.
scenario is new for me. So
Okay.
yeah,
Well,
I'm kind of I'll calm down a little bit.
well, that's the thing is, it's all about the mood. And as I mentioned when I've spoken about your songs, mood. It's just this mood. And also, if I may say, having just heard your voice come on the Zoom, it you put a mood in the room when you speak. Like, and that's not smoke blowing. Like, you've chosen a very like beautiful register to live at, and like vibration to like experience life at, and it's reflected in your voice, and it's just yeah, like again, and I say this unfetteredly, your loved ones, the ones close to you, work pals, whatever, anyone who's encountered you, all extremely lucky to have like Venn diagrammed and cross paths with you. Yeah. Okay. Skills.
I think voices are really interesting, aren't they? I've got a bit of a thing about voices, and yeah, because I do have this thing. I did a little bit of research. I kind of let me look into this, and the couple of things that I read, it talks about your voice is an indicator of. I've spoken about this before, actually, but it's like an indicator of so many things about your person. So it can be, kind of cultural, an indication of your education, indication of your health, your moods, your emotions, kind of sad voice, happy. It's really interesting, isn't it? And it's not, this was before, nothing to do with singing, but just as an interest in voices, which can be really, really attractive or, really off-putting.
I think it's naturally segued into voices because as yourself a singer, and my mom is an opera singer. So she's not like currently like touring or anything, obviously COVID and life paths and that sort of thing. But I learned a few things from her about like where the voice comes from and I haven't heard Robert Plant talk about it too much, but one thing is like if you go into that Zeppelin sphere, which listeners, we will loop to ever, I promise. Believe me, we'll touch back on it. As I mentioned in my emails to Claire, we're like creating like a podcast meal, and like we're gonna add all kinds of different ingredients, but it will be garnished with Eva here and there. And I guess why not? We'll touch on that as we're flowing. Evangelion 3.0 plus 1.0, like a couple of hours ago or something, went up. So, but quite a portentous recording time. Yeah,
it's been huge, hasn't it? And I've kind of, my whole Instagram thread is just full of Evangelion. And I did actually watch kind of probably about. I watched the trailer at the beginning. And it kind of does a recap 16 years later, and then and I watched a few minutes of it, and I was just really amazed because, as I said to Aaron, I'd watched the original series quite recently, and the quality, obviously, the technology and the quality is, it's so old, isn't it? The other, so I watched a little bit of that, and I, wow, that looks so polished and really beautiful graphics. So
it is. However, we can get really real here. I actually really honestly, and this isn't just because you're on the show, I love the original 26. It's just going to always be in my heart. I think that's something maybe that yourself with whatever you grew up with or just connected with that first point of contact. Like I gave the example of Kevin Parker from Tame Impala, like he has like talk about choosing a register. He goes into the nasal like John Lennon, and so that's just where he goes, and
it sounds a little bit like David Attenborough.
We're going to go into all kinds of vocal impressions on this show. Very emphatic. The blue whale. Okay, all right. It's like, what did I tell you about tangents? But yeah, no, like, and here's the thing is there are absolutely people, young boffins probably, even age doesn't really matter, who encountered Tame Impala before John Lennon, and now for them, John Lennon sounds like Kevin Parker, so same thing is with the Japanese version. It's like a lot of people first encountered "Fly Me to the Moon," the Claire version, and so then that's their version, and it's it's very freeing creatively to realize that you just do not have a say on when someone encounters something, what they think is better, what they think is, and it's very freeing to as an artist, I think, to be like, oh, all I have to worry about is just making the thing, which I guess segues us into your music, which, lady, it's very tough to stay composed. When I was saying a bit in the pre-show, your music is healing. Like, it goes beyond just being there as this wonderful entertainment. So there's art and entertainment, but then for the very rare, they complete the triptych and it becomes healing and like contributing to the collective unconscious, like the light of humanity. It's just so beautiful, and it's just so relaxing. And I'm a chronic existential overthinker, so it's just brilliant.
I think that's coming up a lot, isn't it? And I think that's really, the whole thing with music is about creating new moods and evoking emotions. And I think if people feel, I actually listened to the new one myself that you've heard, and it actually relaxes me when I listen to it.
What did I tell you?
Sounds ridiculous. It's interesting, isn't it? I think it's the whole vibe of the song. Obviously, it's not just my voice. It's myself and Darren, and the
shout out to Darren.
Everything that goes into that.
Yeah.
The whole vibe of the song is proper chill, isn't it?
It's proper chill, and we need it, lady. Do we or do we need it in this era? So I think it's like the Claire Littley white blood cell awakened creatively. It's like, how can I serve, contribute? But just all incidental from you just being who you are. But now, go ahead.
Yeah, a lockdown escapist kind of fantasy. So the first verse, as you've heard, I was locked in time, not much else to do. But hold on to the hope. So it's all about, and then the idea, it kind of turns into a love song, like that feeling when you first meet someone. It's like, oh, you take me away, I'm floating off, I'm floating away, and it's that's what the song's about. So
I love
kind of just this. I was thinking of, we were all trapped indoors and we couldn't go out, and I'm like, oh, that feeling of being able to fly off somewhere.
Yeah.
And trying to capture that with, I think the second verse is a bit more, talking about the skies and the open air, and trying to capture some of that feeling. And
that's the healing part,
kind of, when you're laying on a sunbed on holiday. You look up and there's kind of palm trees kind of swaying, and you're like, oh, this is nice. And but you don't have to, it's trying to sort of capture stuff, that kind of essence.
True. There's the word. It is magic though. Like there's something so you make it seem effortless, this aural capturing of imagery that I actually, before encountering your music, in this full way, in this way that I believe that it was always intended to be realized in this path. I just love it. I cannot wait for album 2, 3, 4, whatever goes, like onwards, forth. Yeah. Is
for everyone listening, I'm going to slip out the tenor.
Yeah. You have to stop. You really have to. So what's great is that we're miles away, so there's none of that or any of the others happening. And it's truly, I say this to my fiance, it's like we've sadly, we laugh about it, but we've oddly just over time become a bit cultured to be a bit scarce energetically and a bit cautious and wary of compliments and showing that unfettered like love, because then there's all kinds of like I think it's born of that over anxious sort of internet age. I remember in the 90s people were a lot more unfettered with just like, there was, you could see it in the media of the time. There was like hugging and just like, and then just when we started looking at the screens, it's ironic because now the screens are opening us back up to like connecting again, which is great. It's all you can hope for tech. But I want to sort of be that sort of flag bearer for like, let's just get back into the good vibes. And I say this thing onwards forth. It's apparently, okay, here's the word. It's a valediction. So valediction, I'm a big etymology etymology buffing. A valediction, or a complimentary close, is an expression used to say farewell, especially a word or phrase used as a letter or message. So I have this thing I say onwards forth, which is that whatever the heck is happening like right now, and like goes into some of the Dune stuff I do, it's like it is actually only temporary. Like we need to take the next breath. Like we can't just stay in inhale, we have to get into exhale. Can't just be day, has to go into night, etc.
Just going back to what you're saying about, kind of, what was the term being praiseful, or
so unfettered and just showing.
That kind of it's quite difficult, isn't it? Because I think a lot of people find it difficult to take a compliment.
Totally.
Some people don't. Some people lap it up, but I think I do, and it's almost like that. There's a sense of I don't know where it comes from, really. It's almost like there's a very egoic.
Oh yeah, I see.
Element.
It's conditioning. You're conditioned to never really. Yeah.
Is it conditioning? Is it cultural? Or is it actually some people just naturally feel, a little bit uncomfortable with that? I think the way I feel about it is, it's lovely to get compliments. It's lovely to get positive feedback. It's always nice. But at the same time, I think, it kind of separates you from people in a way, in a strange kind of way. If it's like that kind of, I can't really put my finger on.
Well, there's the element of there's the element you have to be you basically have to be careful that you don't go into the pedestalization, into, as I say, the smoke blowing, because then it becomes art. There's that artifice and there's that separation. Whereas for me, as I say to my fiance I just very early on in the meeting, especially when I resonate with them, because believe it or not, for someone who's recorded 300 and almost 320 episodes of a podcast, I'm like massive introvert. I'm a massive introvert, and I actually only really, I'm pretty selective with like the vibes that I kind of like connect with, and that like the kindredness, as I've said, and I very early on I just say, look, I'm just going to say this about you, and then onwards forth, like we'll just have the rest of the meeting. But you're beautiful inner and outer, and you are, Claire, inner and outer. You're generous. You're kind.
Like a belly button in the end.
See, and that is called, as my fiance is a life mentor, that is called a textbook deflection of a compliment. But I will use that from now on. That's a nice icebreaker. Innie or outie? It's fantastic. But you know what? We should. I wanted to mention actually Nick, who's my co-host normally for the podcast. Lovely New Jersey boffin, love him. He wasn't able to make it for the best reason, though. He's camping, so he's out there. And when all of this like delta wave stuff, he's just out there with the pine trees and the raccoons. And I'm like, buddy, you live your life. And I'll just say love and light from him. And then Amelia, who is like, hasn't jumped on a show yet, but she's sort of like a friend of the show, like supports us and stuff. So I'm just going to pass on good vibes to her, to you from her as well.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
There you go. Had to sort of take that little parking. I have to stop with these metaphors. The podcast is simultaneously a meal, but also a road trip. So it's like I had to park the bus there, and then we keep going. How are you with? Do you like your metaphors, or do you kind of keep it pretty straight?
Do you know, I was going to ask you, just going back. I did wonder if you were going to bring Ray on.
Oh well,
I watched some of your podcasts.
And you're lovely.
I've watched a whole load of stuff, and
I will. She's just next door.
Because I was thinking, what sort of should I kind of should I try and sort myself up a little bit? I'm like, what do people? Is it just earbuds, or some people have proper,
Yeah.
This is actually my vocal mic.
I was going to say, like, so recording at home, obviously, and I immediately heard
I've
it's like,
repurposed a bit
excellent.
of DIY.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I've done this thing. I've developed this affect of like when I clap, I do this. It's like a little beaver clapping. I don't know why. Lockdown madness, I suppose. You know. Oh, well done, well done. But also, I think it's because of the Italian. Sono italiano, bilinguale. Any bilingual? I know, right? Basta, basta. Any bilingualness for yourself?
Not really. I used to speak a fair bit of Spanish actually when I lived with
cool.
Spanish in the halls of residence. I learnt loads, but a very long time ago. I think, like, you know, any language, unless you practice it and you're using it, you forget it, don't you? So,
yeah,
you know, if I've been on holiday to Spain, I can remember a few words. I come back, but nothing really substantial. My English isn't bad.
My English isn't bad. Well, lady of perfect English. Still plugging away, you know. No, that's cool. I was thinking of like words that's just, you know what, this thing, all the albums, it's just trying to get that English thing down, you know. It's the whole singing career is tangential to just learning how to speak. No, but it's always interesting now. You're this is the thing, listeners, with omnidirectionally like inclined friends such as Claire and I, there is honestly the sore temptation to just go on tangent-tasticness, and we really do need to do that. I wanted to mention about how my network, which is just across Instagram, if literally you have a subject, just stick the word podcast after it, and that's me on Instagram. So I've really been busy. We're about 1,000 now planned, and then about 400 or so currently set up. And then at just any point, if you are like, Albert, I just want to have a podcast about Italy, and right here, Italy podcasters, let's do it. You know,
it's kind of.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
It's like there's a climbing podcast. And it's like, oh
wow. Oh yes. That was in the pipeline. It was completely in the pipeline, lady. Because I've got. I don't know if you can see. I'll pivot you.
I didn't get the memo. I didn't get the memo for that one.
I'll just do. Okay, I can't because there's stuff in the way. But on the other end of that door, there's the pull-up bar, and which is always handy for just, you know, when you can't go out to the spaces, you know, the bouldering.
I've got one now.
It's so good. $100, you know. We do the shopping podcast, Amazon podcast. Okay, I'll explain the origins of that. So I genuinely, and this is the thing, whenever I start one, it's like people are like, well, that is like textbook dilettante, like just starting a show. And it's like, genuinely, if I had the time, if I could split myself into 1,000 people, I would be a full-time podcast, like climbing podcast host, because I love climbing. I climb. Yeah, just climbing. Me and Simon, actually, we recorded. Simon Bischoff. He's a climber in Tasmania, and he takes photography, obviously, when he's up there, and it's the perfect melding of those two disciplines. And he actually wrote a book, and this is an old, Alfred Deakin High School schoolmate of mine. We're all in 2002 sitting on the Oval talking about like creating real world hobbit holes. It's like, oh yeah, in 2012, let's all agree to build a hobbit hole together. Just those kinds of, schoolyard friends. And so he ends up doing this climbing thing, and he's jumped on the show. And what I do is I just have the chat, and whatever it's like, and I love my admin too. It's like, where does this chat belong? Where can it fit best? And then I shove it there. And it tends to happen, Claire, that we have a Trojan horse effect where people go into the Star Wars podcast, for example. And I've had Daniel Roebuck, who was the co-host of Harrison Ford and The Fugitive, he's been on. And we ended up just talking about like life and faith. He had a movie out, and he is a character in a video game called Grease. And the title just says, oh yeah, Grease voice actor Daniel Roebuck, and the whole episode is just about life. And so Trojan horse, you think you're talking about Eva, but we're actually going to be diving into Claire's eclecticism. So speaking of which, if we were to pie chart Claire Littley, so how much is singing, how much is climbing, how much is other things? Go.
Oh God, that's, I think, I feel, I don't know, at the moment I'd say in the last year, 80% has been music. Yeah, full on.
Okay, cool.
Full on. Like
Nice.
almost every spare minute. Oh,
that's beautiful.
And you know, and then there's work, and then there's been sort of just getting through lockdown. Which is fun.
I mean, to the point that it's actually taken up a space in the pie chart, like just dealing with lockdown, that deserves its own, you know, mental and emotional bandwidth.
Of course, of course. And yeah, for everyone. I mean, I was thinking, you know, we've been through so much, haven't we? I don't want to turn this into a thing about, you know.
Oh, go for it, lady. Talk about whatever you like.
It's been talked about so much, and you just go down that rabbit hole. But you know, I don't think we should really underestimate the strain that's probably on all of us.
Yeah, no, it's true.
There's conflict even when you just get on the tube. Someone's not wearing a mask, someone is wearing a mask.
Delta apocalypse.
And it's kind of energy draining constantly, isn't it? It's like this residual sort of drain constantly trickling away as you're sort of just still dealing with it every day. So that's been, you know, that's been global, hasn't it? And I guess climbing, I was actually, before lockdown, I think I was fitter than I've ever been. And I was climbing sort of 3 times a week, and I was having a training session as well with my friend Littley, who's I mentioned him in Aaron's podcast, Captain Cut Loose.
Nice.
Really amazing. I mean, he's really, he's XGB, so he's an amazing climber.
Oh wow, nice.
And I think the thing with climbing is, you know, when I say, you know, physically I was fitter than I've ever been, but also, you know, strong mentally and strong physically. I think the mental, emotional aspects are just as, you know, think of your pie chart, you know, it's kind of equal sections, equal components, I think, of the mental, and that, you know, the mental aspects, the sort of emotional, it's kind of recognised, isn't it, with the climbing community, that how therapeutic climbing is.
Yes.
And
I'm going to park the bus here very briefly to say, to support you. I was in the army. I couldn't stand push-ups because there was this whole movement, and I guess maybe it would make a lot of people's eyes roll, but the whole idea of pushing yourself up from being already in a down position, just psychologically, I always prefer like go up, like pull up, go up, you know. It just feels better psychologically, you know, speaking of healing. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, that's interesting. But yeah, I think so. I've been getting back into that more recently. And to be honest, I think, you know, Aaron asked us, I keep mentioning Aaron, obviously, only because it was only a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah. It's kindred. Yeah, totally.
You know, this is it. But yeah, I think sort of socially, that's taken a bit of a back step, in all honesty. I think, you know, Darren and I, you know, we'd kind of been working on the songs, and we wanted to, you know, release them, obviously, let people hear them. And I think then it was almost like, oh, okay, if we want to do that, then we have to do this, and we have to do that. And it's there's huge amount of everything that I've done, even, you know, oh, which distributor should we use? Oh, God, there's so many of them. Which one? And then you have to do a whole load of research around that. And every sort of step of the way, it's a bit like, you know, when you decide to decorate a room. Okay, I'm going to paint that wall. And you paint the wall, and you realise, oh, that looks lovely, and it's really lovely and fresh, but oh my God, look at the other wall, and look at the skirting boards, and and then you kind of end up, it's and I think that's kind of been the case with what we've been doing, obviously. You know, at the point that we're kind of, okay, the songs are coming out, and oh, okay, now we have to do some promos, and we have to do.
Yes, indeed.
We have to embrace social media, and it's
associated admin.
I've learned a huge amount. I've learned so much, with every single step, but it's been never ending. And I think next month, well, I'm starting a new job after next week. So,
nice. Dig it. Good luck and all that goodness.
Thank you. So I'm going to be focusing on that, I imagine, for the next month or so. Just kind of getting settled and up to speed.
Nice.
But it is part-time, so I've sort of chose to prioritize the music. And okay, that's a priority along with health. That's
I actually really love that you didn't include it on the chart because you said 80% music, because this is something Ray would agree with you, and I will chime in to see if she wants to pop on because she would love to speak with you. Is that
I've seen her? The clips that I've seen, and Instagram. She's a therapist, isn't she?
Yeah, she is. That's right. So, and you guys would have that common ground, definitely. But it is that you didn't include it because it is just like, it's what the pie is. Like, it's what the chart is health. Like, it doesn't need its own dedicated segment. It is this, in that, because I'm an ex-army PT, there's the 4 stages of competent. Yeah, 4 stages of competency is unconsciously incompetent, which is you don't know that you're bad at something. Consciously incompetent is you realize you're bad at something. Consciously competent, you realize you're good at something. And then unconsciously competent, which is you don't even realize how good you are at something. It's the 4 stages of learning. And with health for yourself, and I try to do this too, is it has to just be like brushing your teeth. It's like you don't even have any bandwidth to dedicate to that, because it's such a given in life, and I was neglecting that for a long time. I didn't give it its own pillar. It needs its own pillar of attention.
Agreed. And I think as well, it seems, I think when we're younger, and obviously I don't know how old you are, Al, but I'm not going to.
Oh, go on. You can read it in my face. I am 32 AF, as the kids would say.
Well, I'm 52, as you know.
Stop it now. See, I'm gonna turn this off if you don't admit you are actually 28. Come on, please.
Well,
I don't.
Older than 28. No.
Yeah.
I mean,
I thought we were being honest, but
the age thing is, I think, an issue that it is another issue that I think needs to be addressed, because there's so much, what's the word? Stigma.
Yeah, stigma. Oh yeah, my gosh.
Yeah.
Tell me about
age. I mean, it's one of the last isms that hasn't been tackled, and
I know.
Culturally, we know that it affects all of our lives. But I kind of think, going back to what you were, where we were, in terms of sort of exercising and that kind of thing. When you're younger, you kind of take that for granted. Generally, I'm generalising, unless you've had ill health when you've been quite young, you tend to sort of take that for granted. And then as you start to get older, I think you need to do more to sort of combat the aches and the pains, and I've got a bit of backache, sit at a desk, and actually people kind of tend to go one way or the other, that they kind of go, okay, that's a lifestyle that I'm gonna
or they just drop it.
Until, like most things when we change, until there's a need to address it. But yeah, I was smoking actually.
Really? Wow.
I started smoking late as well. It's ridiculous, really. And I was smoking. I've not smoked now for probably over 4 or 5 years.
There you go. Look at that. Would not have placed you for it, because usually there's but well done. Like, you just have like less than 0 of any sort of vibe of even like an ex-smoker. Like, I mean, you have the rock star rock and roll kind of vibe going with the tattoos and the chiseled, come on, let's not mess around. But I think even Bowie, he quit at one point, and there was so that was the Claire smoking years, but no more. Okay, cool.
And other vices as well, like everyone. I mean, we're human, aren't we? And I think I'm, in lockdown, like everyone else, actually I didn't drink more. I drank less because I knew that I was stressed, and I thought, actually, I don't want to start drinking more because that's gonna be even more depressing. But there are, like everyone, there are times we sort of self-medicate, don't we, in different ways.
Indeed, yeah. Totally. I go for the big walks. Food was a thing for me for a long time because as an introvert, the thing you can just, it's easy. You pick your least intrusive, least harmful of the avenues of stress relief. And, but now I've shifted back. Like it was becoming a thing. Like you need to have some, this is Ray talks about it, it's reframing. It's like this framing at the moment of you deprioritizing this and not seeing this as as a thing you need to be. It's as, to give you an image, it's like someone who isn't brushing their teeth. It's like yellow. It's like, that's not normal. And one thing is this, yeah, I know, right? Yeah. If you don't
thing about brushing your teeth.
Yeah. But like I said, it's a metaphor. I go to MA Anonymous, Metaphor Users Anonymous, because I use too many metaphors. We have a meeting tomorrow, and it's a problem. Too many metaphors. Do you know how, like, when you have too many board games that? Okay,
no, it's fine.
Thank you.
You do seem to have like a huge amount of interest.
There's I mean, look, this is it. Ready? Time. Like, that's why running out. Like there's every damn second should be filled with either new information, learning, connecting with kindred people. I don't know what it was that spurred it on, but maybe yourself, if there's maybe a little anecdote or epiphany of like, hey, time is short. I do want to actually pack my days with just worthwhile learning, and that's why I actually was so averse to social media for a long time. But now me and the algorithms are compadres. It's like, you actually recommend some lovely things to me, but I'm fully aware of what you are. You're trying to turn me into a user, right? But for me, it's I take that convenient aspect of like, oh, because of this, that, and the other, I now learned about Claire's music, and now I've connected, and now I am supremely grateful that I know this human being and I'm connecting with them. So it's how I've sort of harnessed this. Again, I love the word omnidirectional because it's 360 outward, but also inward, which is art and entertainment, but then also healing and the inward aspects, psychology, spirituality, and like, I suppose it's just, yeah, like, what else is there to do then? Obviously walk the talk before talking it, but then also signal boosting people who are, because words are powerful, like Ray talks about this, like, and podcasts have become a thing, yeah. And
there's the visual, the sort of, I think when you listen to a podcast without the visual and you just hear a person's voice, it's pretty powerful, isn't it?
That's right.
And I think I don't know, I'm thinking about it now. I wonder if that's why podcasts have sort of become so popular. Because it's such your voice is so unique, isn't it? The human voice is such a unique thing. There's nothing like it. It's sort of, it's like a fingerprint, I guess.
Oh, absolutely. It's used as a voice recognition, and that fingerprint really. That, okay, again, we're joking before about metaphors, but that's perfect. Is that it's an imprint, and what I think of this is all these podcasts are little prints that, like, I'll be able to at some point, just say, okay, here's this body of, and now I can't even, 300 whatever, I'm sure with albums and songs you've spent in the studio. One thing that is, with the audio even video, I guess, because they're sister disciplines or whatever, but it's nice to know that many thousands of years hence, like, people will be able to listen to Claire Littley. Like, that's lovely, it's very sweet. I like that.
It's sort of leaving. This is, I think it's that having some finding some meaning, and I think that's kind of what
meaning.
I was touching on in the other podcast, that actually it's with the music and with Fly Me to the Moon, which is how we come to be talking, that to know that that's been so meaningful, not just it's a lovely song, or I like her voice, etc. It's I think the messages that I mentioned, that I've mentioned before, a guy sitting on the back of the bus that's being bullied at college, who listened to the song on the back of the bus every night because it helped to calm him down. And those kind of things, it's like, wow, that's amazing. And meaningful.
Meaning.
So to leave something like that behind, for me, is I guess as well, it's that sort of existential thing that I don't think you really think about that sort of stuff very much when you're younger. Most people, again, generalizing, unless you've sort of had a major loss early on, you normally start to think about these things much later, like middle ages. I know friends, I've got friends that have, gosh, I didn't, 40s, I'm comfortable with my age. I don't.
Skills. Again, you're a vampire like Ray, like, just not aging, but go ahead.
Well, I feel it sometimes, but I kind of think that sorry, I've lost my thread now completely.
Oh, that's okay. We're vibing, as they say. We're vibing. That's no worries.
Kind of.
But you were saying meaning,
okay, so actually, I've got friends. Who 50 seem to be a real kind of milestone, in the sense that I think there's a realization that you're probably over halfway.
Get out of it.
Wow, what does that mean? And suddenly there's that sort of existential acknowledgement, if you've not already looked at that for various life events that may have happened. You suddenly start to think, wow, okay, what does that mean?
Speaking of meaning, I think we might be able to get... Exactly. Speaking of such things, this is perfect for Ray to pop in, so I'll just go get her. Okay. If she's available. One sec. Yeah, no worries. One sec.
Okay. Can I just tell you, while we're pausing, you realise you have a square, so you're...
Oh yeah, believe me, I know.
Obviously, I'm on the other end of that, and I'm like... Yeah,
no, it's okay. I'll be doing...
Is that going to be there all the time?
No, I'll be doing some cropping, and there's a...
You bought a new camera, haven't you?
No, I was using it earlier. Claire, can you stop? Okay, this is bullying. I'm kidding.
Did you buy a camera though?
I did,
and autofocus.
With autofocus, it's the DSLR, and I've been using it, and it's been fine. Okay. It's just I just hadn't downloaded the driver, and so anyway. So what I'll do is I'll just figure out how to switch inputs so that Ray can join us. Let's go to preferences, I suppose.
I didn't know you could use your camera for stream.
Yeah. Okay, let's go Elgato Wave, and let's go iMac speakers. Okay. And say something?
Hello.
Okay. And now say something again.
I've moved my mic, so is it...
Oh, excellent. I can hear you. This is...
Hello, 1, 2, 1, 2.
1, 2. Fantastic. This is Claire Littley Radio. There you go. The Littley cast. Can we expect a podcast from you at some point?
Oh, God, I'm just looking at my... Sorry, are we waiting for? We're not recording.
No, well, the thing is, editing. Editing is the
You
thing.
can edit all of this. So I'm just looking, seeing what my hair's doing.
The hair's
back off of the.
The hair's great. The hair's great. No, and I just mentioned it's like, yeah, you know, we've started talking about meaning. It's like time to bring in Ray. It's like Ray and I, because we constantly talking about that, and you know, that I call it the Delta apocalypse jokingly, but this idea of, oh yeah, so we're not quite out of it yet, spurring on even more of what people were initially calling COVID as like a metaphor for, well, we've been sent to our rooms, haven't we? Like we actually have to go inward, you know, and inward is where you find meaning. And then also, you know, as I say,
absolutely,
you have to go.
The solitude is necessary,
Yeah.
I think. Although not everyone was in, you know, on their own, but I think sometimes that's necessary, in the quietness and the, you know, all of those things that actually a lot of people try to avoid.
I know. Had to put it all together.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Yeah. What I'll do, actually.
Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, it's such a pleasure. Yeah, I really love what you do, and Albert's been telling me a lot about your craft as well. So it's been wonderful to just learn more about what you do and how you are creative in the world. So yeah, I'm really happy that we're meeting.
Okay, should I just leave that, or should I just cut for this little segment? Should I just cut to the main camera, just to make it less awkward?
Yeah,
let's cut to the main camera.
Let's do that.
Let's do that.
So we're looking at Claire, and she's
looking at us. We muddled along pretty well, but Claire, don't worry. The power of editing is a very powerful power indeed.
Okay.
Yes. Okay, Camlink 4K, FaceTime. Okay.
There we go.
And it's actually incredible. What am I?
Look at that.
Why did I even buy a DSLR, honestly?
Yeah.
I know.
Zoom
is amazing. But, you know, I'll still use it.
Yeah.
Anyway, meaning. Go.
Oh.
Discussing meaning.
Gosh,
and
yeah.
Where to find it and why we need it. And do we go from inward outward, or do we find it from outward inward? Yeah.
What were you guys talking about before I got here? I would love to get some context.
Well, the thing is, like immediately that just made, we were talking about how with Evangelion, obviously one of the main core things, and I talk about this with the whole network, is that it's a Trojan horse. It's like you think you're going to be diving straight into like Eva type stuff, which is it's a series about, you know, Japanese robots and that sort of thing, but the like more than any other anime, and this is why people like Kojima have cited it as an influence, is that the very core of it is existential, absolutely addresses mental health directly as like a core aspect of it. It is a giant metaphor for confronting depression as this and people use it as a platform to navigate, you know, and meaning and depression are they dance, don't they?
So true. Yeah, I'd love to hear from you too, Claire. Like what are some of your musings on this? I remember you wrote a very insightful comment on something I wrote recently, so I'd love to know more from you.
Yeah, I do remember writing a comment, but I can't remember what it was.
That's okay. Just about
it was about the everyday, wasn't it?
That's right. Yeah.
So we were just kind of discussing, you know, the song "Fly Me to the Moon" and, you know, other songs, other music. I guess they all, you know, there are many songs that do this, not just "Fly Me to the Moon." And but in my life, the meaningfulness, not because people think, oh, that's a lovely song, and I like her voice, and, you know, all those things. It's more around the messaging that I've had that's been, you know, very meaningful experiences that people have had, and the songs help them, you know. So I kind of said to Albert, there's been so many, but the ones that have sort of stayed in my mind have been, and most of them are, you know, I was having a really hard time and I listened to your song and it helped my anxiety, or, you know, there was a guy that used to listen to it on the back of the college bus every night, and it would kind of calm him down when he was having a hard time at college, and you know, and I think stuff that we can all relate to, really. And there was a guy quite recently who sent me a photo on Instagram, and he had his baby in the bath, and he plays a song every night because it calms the baby down when he puts the song on, so it helps him to do the kind of bath.
Amazing.
So yeah, there's stuff like that, and I think we were talking about a legacy, leaving a legacy. You know, that kind of awareness of our humanity at a certain point in our lives, normally at a certain age.
Yeah.
Depending on our life experiences, that can happen earlier. You know, if we've had a sort of a loss in early life, or you know, it's a generally, I think it happens later in life, doesn't it? But and then Albert said, "Oh yeah, let me get Ray."
Yeah.
And I said, "Yeah, great."
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, and it's so many wonderful things in what you said, specifically how art can really help us find answers to those questions of meaning in our life, and also how art is the way that we can leave that behind for others. So it's that beautiful conflation of two things that come together in what you do, and no doubt this project. So how wonderful to see that at work. Yeah, and for you to get that immediacy of people's experience and feedback from listening to you and passing that on to their children. That's beautiful.
Yeah, and I don't think I mean, the messages, it's not really immediate, is it? It's kind of, there's I guess it's as immediate as it was possible. But I think at the moment with the new song, there is much more immediacy. Because I can kind of, you know, obviously there's social media, and there's lots of messages on social media.
Right.
And, you know, starting to get that feedback, and obviously with friends as well, and family, and they're hearing stuff that you know, they've not heard really before. And you know, I've shared sort of draft. I'm like, what do you think of this? It's a sketch, and what do you think? You know, but a lot of people haven't actually heard the final song, so you know, so that's nice. It's nice to sort of, wow, you know, I've had quite a few moments after the first podcast. I was quite reflective. For a few days, and a mix of emotions, really, that I knew would happen. I was kind of prepared for that. And I talked about it, you know, with my therapist, because there's obviously been a lot of stuff coming up, and you know, I wanted to work with that. And yeah, it's you know, there's so many emotions, aren't there, with anything that you do. It's not all just, oh yeah, I've released a song, it's happy.
Exactly.
You know, there's a whole journey, and but yeah, meaningful. That's certainly the right word.
Yeah, beautiful. I mean, just by virtue of what you said, I think this is such an interesting thing. I mean, there are movies and books about the artist's relationship with their art, right? So it's like success or new creative ventures isn't always just like sunshine and rainbows. It's a tortured experience. There's a lot of beauty there, but no doubt it brings up a lot of like inner work, and confronts you with aspects of yourself as well that you may not have.
Absolutely. Right? And you both probably know a little bit of my sort of personal history, and if anyone has listened to the other podcasts, you know, they will now. But I think, you know, there's so much stuff that sort of come up that's quite, you know, we're a balance of emotions, aren't we?
Yeah.
You know, like the sunshine and rain, to use the cliche, and cliches become cliches because they're true.
That's right.
Generally,
it's applicable.
But yeah, I mean, I can remember when so Darren had finished the sort of, he was doing the final mix on Love Will Set You Free, and I can remember sort of listening, you know, he's in Australia as well, and as well as you. I imagine, obviously.
He's actually our neighbour, so yeah.
Yeah. And I, when I listened to it, I kind of had a big cry. I sort of sat and it was almost like, wow, we've finished the first song, and it's such a huge well of emotion, sort of, because there's all of the past and all of the years that I wasn't singing, and that feeling of lost years. And as much as I'm here and I'm present now and I'm, doing music, there's that element of shadow. I heard you talk about, I heard you mention shadow actually in one of Albert's podcasts.
Yeah, very important and ever there.
Yeah.
You can tell she's a therapist. But yeah, it's sort of, but I'm aware of this, and you work through it, and
that's right.
It sort of enriches you, doesn't it?
It does.
We're kind of all of these things, and we're not always happy.
Yeah.
As much as we'd like to be. No one ever said that life was going to be happy.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. And you're so right in like normalizing that, and to make that okay, like, to not sort of judge the shadow as being like terrible or awful, and just to see it as what makes us whole. I think that can really make the journey more enriching. And instead of those moments where you're sort of cursing at the universe or life, if you can see it as part of your life, as what makes you and allows you to express your full humanity, I think that's so beautiful. That's something that we can all be reminded of.
But you say also what you resist persists, and a lot of people resist the dark and resist diving in and resist the shadow, and yet it is this thing where if you don't go into the dark, you won't find the treasure. That's where in the cave is where
that's right. Joseph Campbell.
That's right.
He gets it. Yes.
The exact quote, I think it is,
the cave you fear to enter holds the treasure that you seek.
Yeah.
It's so interesting. It's the sort of the avoidance, isn't it, of things we're afraid of, and that resistance that I think that's a very therapeutic thing, isn't it? Sort of the resistance that causes the pain, and sort of allowing, sort of if you have anxiety, then the worry that you're going to get anxious. Oh my god, what am I going to do? It's like, actually be anxious and sit with it. And allow it, and actually it's not as bad as you thought it might be, and pretty soon it sort of will evaporate. And
otherwise you're doubling it.
We've never been taught to do these things, have we? So we kind of go, I don't want to feel sad. What do I do now to make myself happy? I don't want to feel that. I don't want to feel this. I don't want to feel these negative things. And I think I've kind of learned, and it's taken me a long time, that the shadow and the light are both really necessary, aren't they? And you can't have one without the other. And it's as much as I kind of you don't want to forever be going, oh well, this is really painful, but it's okay because I know I'm learning.
This is painful, but it's
forever living in pain.
Yeah, just forever.
When is it ever going to end? But it's okay, I'm learning.
I'm
growing and I'm learning, so that's fine. I mean, it's true, isn't it? You don't want it to be like that all the time, but actually there are times in your life, and it seems to be quite, it comes in phases, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Sort of, I'm at the top of the hill. Oh, good, now I'm being.
Exactly.
And it does feel like that. That's how it's felt for me recently. So. The song's going out. And I think for Darren as well, that it's like we've put so much work into them, and you almost feel like, okay, we've released the songs now. That's it. And it's like we're almost at that point where there's sort of, it starts to go a little bit sort of downhill. But actually, it's almost like that's the first step in a way.
And all
of this foundation work. And
absolutely.
issues, and
Well,
you set up your foundations, and then you're now, okay, now we can start. Okay, first start. You know, it's so different to how I think people may perceive it. But oh yeah, songs, that's great. It must be great, right? You know, it's like, it is great, but there's also a lot of backgrounds. So
well, Ray brings up this with me is that it doesn't end. Like, just one journey ending is just another beginning. And often there's a bit of an expectation. It's like, well, I'm done, aren't I? It's like, no, you do have to take another breath after the first breath, and then that's how life happens, is exhale, inhale. And then the other thing is the metaphor of the iceberg is like a lot of what the only like the public see, and this goes for therapists and artists, the same thing is just at the very top, but the work that's been done underneath is just this massive,
profound,
and the work never stops too either.
And I guess it can be liberating if you think about it that way, which is no moment lasts, not the good nor the bad. You know, if you hold on, it will move into whatever's next. So it can also be liberating instead of being like, oh crap, you know, I've got like a lifetime full of this. You know, you could also, hopefully we can also find some solace in that transience of, you know, every moment. So yeah, that's beautiful. I love that.
And that's, I mean, it's a sort of a cliche, isn't it? That you can't, everything always changes. That's the only thing that's guaranteed is change, and it's hard. I think change is hard for a lot of people, isn't it? It's you know, you sort of you want sort of say familiar and that's comfortable, and you know, until it becomes uncomfortable, because we naturally need to grow, don't we? So trying to sort of stay
that's beautiful. I'm going to leave you to your conversation soon, but I wanted to ask you one more question. Given that you are so aware of like emotional nuances, and I see that in the song as well, I wanted to ask you, like, what is it that you wanted people to experience and like feel? Because it's always a treat, you know, when you hear from the artists about what they wanted to capture. And then I'll duck out.
You don't have to go. Don't you know? I'm very happy for you to stay.
You have to jump on her podcast.
Very kind.
Come on.
Very kind.
So, just ask me again. What was it I wanted people to feel?
Yeah, because I see a lot of that, a deep awareness of you in like emotional nuances, and I sense that in the song as well. So I'd love to know what you wanted people to feel when you sang the song.
Yeah, I guess you know, there are different songs that do or address different things.
Yeah.
And I guess, you know, the first song that people have heard, Bubble Set You Free, was about that journey to. It's actually about, you know, self-love and self-acceptance. So it could be a love song.
Beautiful.
Well. So
beautiful. I love that. It
was almost like, actually, it could be a love song, but it really is about, you know, so many times I ask myself, what's the meaning at all? Since we're not meant to know, we live, we learn, we grow. So there's that whole sort of the way I think about things, and my own life experiences that I've sort of channeled into it, but at the same time on a sort of, you know, surface level, it could just be a nice love song. And I think with Fly Away, which I don't know if you've heard it, Ray.
I played it for her.
Yeah.
But with that one, it was sort of really, oh my God, I really would like to have a holiday right now.
Literally fly away.
And we're in lockdown.
I love it.
Actually, I was really happy because I was, you know, this was sort of an earlier song. So, I want to write something about this sort of lockdown escapist fantasy.
Beautiful.
But also, I've managed to get in another one of my favourite quotes in this one as well.
Excellent.
Which was, so in the first song, there's an Anais Nin quote.
Love her. Yes.
And then in this one, I don't know if it's the exact quote, but it's something that I remembered from really young, and I was fascinated with it. And it was this idea that is all that we see but a dream within a dream. And it's that, I think it's that sort of idea. For me, it was around this. I've always been interested in religions and philosophers, and that's not research.
You're a fellow fire sign. Excellent. I'm an Aries. You're a Sagittarius. Okay. Love it.
But I yeah, it was. Oh my God, I'm tired. I keep losing my thread.
No, that's okay. You were interested in lots of philosophies and ideas and religion.
And yes, and the idea of is all that we see.
A dream.
It's like that Buddhist reincarnation thing. So, and you know, last night I dreamt I was a butterfly, and I'll make it. You know, there's another quote like that, isn't there?
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
On waking, I didn't know if I was myself or the butterfly dream. You know, it's something that I said it completely correctly. But it's beautiful. If you Google last night I dreamt I was a butterfly. And I did not know if I was myself or
beautiful. Beautiful. I love that.
It's a really beautiful quote. But yeah, there was another. I can remember reading another book or something that was almost like life as a cinema. Life as a cinema.
Yes.
You know, and read the kind of predestined script that you plan out before you know, and I'm not necessarily, I don't necessarily believe in reincarnation. It's not like, oh yeah, I really believe that. I find it really interesting.
Yeah.
I found them, by the way. It is Zhuangzi. Once upon a time, I dreamt I was a butterfly, fluttering hither and thither, to all intents and purposes a butterfly. I was conscious. It's not it? Oh, well then. Hands up. You got me. But very lovely, very lovely. Yeah. No, that's not it. No, that's not it, love.
But, all right, I will leave you guys to the rest of your chat. Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure. Yeah, treat meeting you. Congratulations on the song. Yeah. I look forward to
see you again soon.
Yeah, I would love that. Yeah, you have a beautiful rest of your day.
You too.
The power of editing. Love it. Well, Claire, we do have to at some point find the actual quote.
Yes.
I dare say. Right. What the heck was the point of that camera? I mean, this is fine. Look at that. All this time we could have just been, but it was interesting though, and I quite like the idea that being someone in the realm of audio yourself as a singer, that I was essentially looking. Now for some reason I'm looking there while you're right here in front of me now. But yeah, there was that aspect of like, well, I can only hear her, and yet she's just to the side there. Very, very interesting. But look, Claire, as you can see, that's my main thing. Is I think there's a not whatever the opposite of a dearth is just a giant chasm of human-centered and Ray says heart-centered conversations in the realms of art and entertainment, where a lot of people do need it. I think a lot of people erroneously use art and entertainment as escapism, and interestingly, with Evangelion, there is a components to it of the fanboyism, and then the people, you know, the buying of the figurines. I have no interest at all in any of that, in any of the spheres that I do shows for, because again, that won't last. Like it's the ideas that will last, it's the lessons that will last. And it's so ironic that most conversations centered around, and I love Aaron sticks very like 99.9%, but like within the sphere of what's discussed lore-wise and stuff. Of course, I enjoy a lot of those aspects, especially etymologically, you know, Sile and Nerv and all of the, you know, the structure of that, you know, facility having these names that evoke like biblical references. Like, it's beautiful. But for me, and I want to get your thoughts on this, is art as a platform for self-inquiry, for deeper learning. For me, that's the only thing that makes. I mean, art is great escapism wise, but for me, I tip towards needing my art to mean something and needing my art to enhance, you know, my experience of life. Is that the same for you, or do you like to have these sort of purely cathartic, you know, go for it?
I think I've never really thought about it.
Okay.
I guess, you know, do I see it as, it is an art form, isn't it? I've never thought about, you know, my music as an art form, but
it is, and it really just beautifully contributes, you know, just in the lyrics and in the place that it comes from. It's just so worthwhile. I guess maybe that's it. It's like art being worthwhile, you know?
It is, and at the same time it is a song, you know. It's as simple as that, as well as maybe being an art form. And I you know, I guess it's, these things are different. I'm thinking about it now as we're talking about these things take on different meaning for the viewer, the audience, the person that's listening or looking. It's what it means to them, I think, that becomes primary with your art. So there's your kind of creative part of yourself that you put in that. You know, a huge amount of myself goes into a song. If I'm thinking about sort of design, it's less so. It's more, I guess, as well, because the design's a more commercial endeavour. But
which I love your designs, by the way.
With the song, I think.
Yeah, you take it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Thank you. I think with the music, the idea of having meaning for me, we've touched on that, of course, and I get a huge amount of you know, joy out of the music as well. You know, I was recording some vocals today and editing some vocals, and you know, sort of had a bunch of takes, and I'm like, well, that's the dodgy note. Let's sort of take that verse and that bit, and I lose myself completely. I think that's really, really, you know, you're in the flow, don't you, when you lose hours. But for other people, you know, it's like, you know, the classic thing with a song that reminds you of, oh, I've got a memory of that song from, that reminds me of that time when I was, you know, living in or doing this thing, or I was working, or I was on holiday, or songs especially do that, don't they? They transport us back in time immediately, you know, so they kind of like conjure up memories and feelings, and it's like magic, isn't it, in that sense?
Absolutely. I think this I mean, you know, I mean, I've just been, just from moment to moment throughout the chat, the just no end in sight increase of gratitude for connecting. We've got other things with the day coming up now, but that ending on that note of magic, I quite like. I love that.
Yeah.
So I think, what is on for the rest of your day, love?
Well, it's, as I said, it's
sleep. That's
it's
it.
10:20 now.
It's time for bed.
So I'm going to have a glass of wine, I think. I'm very tired because I've been, you know, flat out. So
well, big hugs.
You will have to edit a few of those.
Of course, it's going to be one of those ones where I'm going to have to cut out the border and stuff. But half of it or something, yeah. But let's definitely jump on for another one pretty soon, okay? Yeah, and
no, I mean, I have all intentions of, you know, staying in touch and not.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do a podcast. No, let's do it. And your family, you know that when you come to Australia, like, you don't lift a finger. You're not allowed. It's forbidden. All right. So big hugs. There you go. I do these ones.
You too. Big hug to you.
No
It's
worries.
really lovely to meet you, and give Ray a hug as well.
I will. I'll go do it now. Have a good one.
Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye.